Found Hello and welcome to Keith's Whisky Vlog. How are you doing? Excellent, me too. If you're good, I'm good. Whisky tasting review for you in this video, and we have the golden whisky tube of mystery. What does it conceal today? Well, it's quite an interesting dram, or hopefully it will be. I've never tried it before. As well as doing your standard tastings, all your standard expressions, standard age statements. In my job as a tour guide, going around Scotland, visiting lots of distilleries on a regular basis, I get exposed to sort of distillery exclusives, limited releases, single casks, quite interesting whiskies you can't normally find. And I think this sort of falls into the category a little bit. It's not a completely rare whisky, but it's something a little bit more unusual. It's something that I'm liking to try and sort of bring to you in my videos. So this is a little sample. I don't have a full-size bottle, unfortunately, but I do have a little bit of marketing material to show you in a moment. But this is a little sample that was given to me by Scott from the Whisky Castle shop in Tomintoul. Now, he has supplied me with a few whiskies. I take customers in there quite a lot when I'm on tour, and Scott's very generous with whisky tastings. If you're ever up in the Scottish Highlands near the village of Tomintoul, visit the Whisky Castle shop. I have no, if you like, business relationship. It's a great place to go. They've got a great selection of whisky and they're very generous at giving you little samples. That is why you need to go. You can pay for your whisky if you like, but if you get free whisky, it just tastes that little bit better. I'm sure you agree. So this sample here, it is not a single malt. I am a bit of a single malt snob. That is mostly because that's all I've really been exposed to. There are enough distilleries in Scotland, there are enough single malt whiskies in Scotland for me to keep myself occupied. But if and when something maybe from abroad or something that's not a single malt crosses my radar, then I am more than willing to give it a try. How do you know it's good? You pop it in your mouth, and if you like it, it's a good one. If you don't like it, you try something else. So this little sample here, really nice colour to it. This is a blended malt. So single malts, malted barley, whisky from a single distillery. A blended malt, so it's still malted barley, however it's a blend, so it's a mixture of different whiskies from different distilleries. How many? We're not quite sure. And this whisky is called Scalasaig. Now Scalasaig is a little village on the island of Colonsay. Whisky tour guide Keith Pointer comes into play. So we have Scotland, we have the Western Isles, the wonderful whisky island of Islay, and just above Islay is the island of Colonsay. Now you can get a ferry to Islay from Oban that stops off in Colonsay. I've not been to Colonsay yet. I believe the population is just over 100, 120 or so, and it's not actually on this map, but Scalasaig is the little sort of port village on the east coast. I believe to get anywhere on Colonsay you've got to go through Scalasaig first of all. So Colonsay Beverages are a company that make beverages from Colonsay. They do beer and they do gin, and they also now do whisky. And they've got a guy called Keith Bonington on board who used to work with Edrington, the owners of Macallan, and I believe that this is a sort of joint partnership, or Keith Bonington now works in or with Colonsay Beverages. I tried another whisky from the Whisky Cellar, CELLAR, which was another Keith Bonington project, and that was a Mackmyra 8-year-old from Sweden, marketed under the sort of brand the Easy Sipper. So Scalasaig is a sort of brand name as opposed to where it's made, and I believe the Scalasaig whisky, it's a blend of single malts from Orkney, Islay and the Ayrshire coast. So Orkney, so it's basically Scottish islands and coastal distilleries. These are the Orkney Islands away in the northeast. You've got two distilleries up there, you've got Scapa and you've got Highland Park, so obviously there's some Scapa or Highland Park in here. Islay, down here, there are 9 distilleries, 1 or 2 more in the imminent pipeline, but 8 really sort of functioning distilleries. Ardnahoe is a new one, so I doubt there's any Ardnahoe in here, but we'll see if we can detect any other island distilleries. And the Ayrshire coast, Ayrshire is this southwest part of the mainland of Scotland, and you've got Girvan down here, the Girvan distillery, and Ailsa Bay, so I'm guessing there's maybe some Ailsa Bay single malt in here as well. So it's a very interesting vatting. I believe there were 10 casks from various distilleries, and there are 3,000 bottles of this Scalasaig. It comes in at just 43%, so relatively mild in the percentage terms, ABV, and it's around about £50 a bottle, which will get a lot of single malt enthusiasts sort of coughing a little bit. Blended whisky tends to be a little bit cheaper, but a really good blended malt. There's no reason why, if it's good quality ingredients, it shouldn't cost a little bit more. So it's a little bit unusual for a blended malt to be a little bit pricier, but again, if it's quality, then hopefully it is worth the cost. So we'll pop it into a glass for you. I believe it's peated casks. It's in first fill sherry casks as well. Peated whisky, I should say, in first fill sherry casks, and certainly with the colour. There's no age statement. I've got a real dark colour in this. I recently tried the Tamdhu 15-year-old, which is all first fill sherry casks, and it was a little bit lighter than this, so a good start. As well, the Scalasaig, the actual branding, the marketing, this is what counts, the whisky. But I've said it before, I'll probably say it again, the marketing of whisky, I think it's important. Since the early days of whisky, marketing, branding has gone hand in hand, and the bottle, the label, if you like, the marketing of the Scalasaig, quite distinctive. Scott in the Whisky Castle, when he gave me the little sample, he also gave me a Scalasaig poster. So I don't have the actual bottle, but I'll show you what I'm talking about with the branding, if you can see it. So it's sort of based on sort of 1920s, 1930s style sort of travel posters. You can see the boat going around the coast. Nice little Scotland flag there, the saltire as well, always good. And this one, the Scalasaig Blended Malt Scotch Whisky Island Hopper Maiden Voyage. Now this is a limited release, as I said, about 3,000 bottles or so, and the Maiden Voyage, it's the first one that they've mixed together, blended, vatted, married, whatever language you'd like to use. So enough about the whisky, now a little bit more about the actual whisky. So quite a sort of thick, treacly on the nose. A little bit of smoke, a little bit of peatiness, a little bit of sort of that dirt, a little bit coastal. Almost that saltiness, but yeah, there's a real sort of fresh treacle on the nose. Quite thick. Quite like this one straight away. There's a decent little bit of smoke there. I like a really good punchy smokiness, but there's enough there just to tickle my fancy. So a little bit of the sea, a little bit of treacle, a bit of sweetness, a bit of smokiness. Good dark start. It sort of matches the colour of it. So I think I said 43%, so generally quite light. We'll see how it feels in the mouth. Very nice. Oh. Smoky, strong, still that treacle. It's real. It's like being hit by something square somehow, a flat front, bit of weight behind it, almost a metallic somehow. It's all up the front. There's a weight behind it, but there's no flavour, there's no feel behind it. Very strange, very interesting. Almost cold somehow. It's not in temperature, but cold in sort of surgical way, a clean way. Any sweetness again is at the front. I'm not getting any of that sort of unctuous Christmas cake that you'd expect of the sherry. Got to say Christmas cake for every sherry review, otherwise people get disappointed. But yeah, quite a sort of metallic-y, a sort of zing to it almost. I'm trying to think age-wise what it might be. That's maybe why it's lacking that, as I say, that juicy unctuousness. A lot here, not much here. If you had one, if you were tasting one, I'm sure you'd get what I mean. There's still a little bit of that treacle, toffee, but that sort of dark syrupy. A little bit, almost a sort of banana behind that as well, just that banana toffee. It's quite nice. Again, a little bit dry. It's not backing it up as much as I would have hoped. I'm going to keep saying treacle. A little bit of water. 5 whole drops. Okay, I'm still getting coastal, sort of briny, a little bit of floral coming through now, a bit lighter. The treacle's come down, more syrupy than treacle, and I say come down, it's still quite thick. I'm trying to think about balance, so I'm thinking about there's not just quite enough smoke there, and there's not quite just enough sweetness there, which suggests that there's a balance. It's not too overpowering either way. I'd prefer more of both, and it tends to sort of lack a little bit of both. I'm not going to deny I was hoping for a little bit more. If I could add a little bit more water, see if I can break some more sweetness out of the depths. There's another 4 drops going in. It's not at all bad. It's unusual, it's interesting. It's not giving me any of that sort of burned wood, that burnt smokiness that you'd expect from an Islay. I mean, I'd be going Bruichladdich, Bunnahabhain if I was guessing which Islay was in it. There's none of that real sort of vanilla sweetness from a Camellia. There's none of the real smokiness from the southern distilleries, your Ardbegs, your Laphroaigs. It could have a little bit of Bowmore. In fact, yeah, if I had to guess, I'd hit Bowmore, Bruichladdich, Bunnahabhain in that order on Islay. I doubt there's Kilchoman, I doubt there's Camellia. I doubt there's any of the southern ones. Ailsa Bay I'm not familiar with. Orkney, if I had to guess, I'd go for Scapa in this. Highland Park's got more sweetness, that honey, that lemon, and I'm not getting as much of that. Not to say I might be completely wrong, but I'm going to go for some Scapa and some Bowmore. Would be my 2 lead guesses on taste. Both perfectly fine distilleries. I mean, I say perfectly fine. Bowmore's as good as it gets. So, interesting. A little bit less than I was expecting. as a single malt snob, I'm going to say it. It's a blend, and therefore somehow it's just not quite got the full smoky, sweet blast that you'd hope for. But not bad. Would I buy a bottle? If you bought me a bottle, I would drink it. I'm not sure if I'd buy a bottle at that sort of price. Maybe on a price reduction somewhere, you never know. But glad to have tried it. Thank you to Scott for supplying it. And they're not doing much wrong. If they keep producing whiskies like this, I'll keep drinking them. Thank you for watching. Slàinte mhath. Cheers.